Let me say a couple things first. We can't give the United States too much credit here. I mean, I'm an American. I've watched successive administrations carry out sophisticated national security and foreign policy schemes. Most of them not to the betterment of international peace and security, but there is a national security establishment in the United States, a foreign policy establishment that has not been engaged consistently. And what I mean by that is we had the Obama administration, 8 years of the Obama administration get purged from Washington, D.C. Power circles by Donald Trump, who had a completely different, chaotic approach toward national security and foreign policy, especially when it came to Russia, NATO, and Ukraine. And so the Obama neoliberal movement, which was heavily invested in Ukraine and did have a strategy, was thrown off its game. They did not come back into power until January of last year. And they were immediately thrown a number of curveballs. So the notion that a Jake Sullivan, that a Tony Blinken, and people of this ilk suddenly were able to, boom, come up with the most sophisticated, mind-bending national security chess game that confused the hell out of a country like Russia that's only had 20 years of consistency in terms of its government, foreign policy, and national security decision-making, and faked Russia, pulled them into coming into a trap, is absurd in the extreme. Russia controls this timeline. Russia has set the narrative. Russia's doing exactly what Russia wants to do. There is no trap. If anything, Russia has sucked the West into a trap because Russia is, once and for all, solving the Ukraine problem. And I will also say this when it comes to any notion of a negotiated settlement, there will be no negotiated settlement. Russia doesn't come out and say, we're going to denazify Ukraine, only to empower the Nazis with a ceasefire. And anybody who thinks that Russia isn't going into Lvov doesn't know Russia. The only way this thing is solved is for Russia to seal the border between Ukraine and Poland, preventing any connectivity. Not only that, with Romania as well. Ukraine will be isolated for a moment by Russian troops. Inside Ukraine, there will be a purging of these ultranationalists. They will be destroyed as a military movement. They will be destroyed as a political movement. And anybody who thinks there's going to be a viable insurgency doesn't know jack squat about the Russian security services. Yeah, the CIA may have been doing stuff in Russia since 2015. You know who's been doing in Ukraine? You know who's been doing stuff in Ukraine forever? The Russian intelligence services, the Russian security services. When I went to Ukraine in 1997 to meet with Kravchuk, I can't remember his name right now, about Ukraine's empowerment of weapons dealers who were dealing illegally with Iraq. I had a problem because I was meeting with the National Security Council, who were very pro-NATO. And they were sitting there the whole time. I'm sitting there saying, you guys got to shut this stuff down. You can't be shipping weapons technology off to Iraq. It's a violation of United Nations Security Council, et cetera. And they were like, yeah, we hear you. But if we do this, will you put a good word in us with the United States for NATO? I said, I'm a United Nations official. I don't do that. I'm sorry. What I can do is send a report to my boss, who will assuredly report to the Security Council. The United States is a member of the Security Council. We'll hear about all the great things you did to shut down this illegal transfer of weaponry to Iraq. But that's all I can do. No, but we need to be part of NATO. And then I said, well, I'd like to speak to your security services guys because, you guys are policymakers. I need to speak to the goons, thugs, the guys who actually twist arms and make things happen, the SBU. And they said, oh, no, you can't do that. The Russians control the SBU. This is 1997. The Russians have always controlled the SBU. The Russians have always controlled everything in Ukraine. Now, it's gotten a little politically out of hand after Maidan, et cetera. But the notion that Russia is suddenly blind, deaf, dumb, Ukraine is absurd. They infiltrated the CIA's operation the moment it started. The second they start shipping people off to the United States, the Russians have the manifests. The Russians know the names. The Russians probably have guys that are being trained in the United States. So, the CIA sucks at this, by the way. I just want to say that right off the bat. The paramilitary branch is literally staffed with idiots. One only has to take a look at their success rate in Iraq, where they literally went out, when I was a chief weapons inspector, used my inspection team as a front to carry out a coup against Saddam, only to find out that Saddam had infiltrated them, owned their communications. Saddam was the one, or Saddam's people were communicating with them. And then when I said, execute the coup, they executed 600 people, got on the phone with the CIA and Amman and said, hey, thanks a lot for the fancy satellite communications equipment. We really appreciate the contribution to our effort. Click. And these are the same guys that went to Afghanistan and totally screwed that up. And suddenly these incompetent goons who can't do anything right are supposed to be geniuses in setting up a counterinsurgency and unconventional warfare in Ukraine. Not on your life. They will be purged. They will be annihilated. The Russians aren't playing games. Now, another reason why I want to point out that the Russians aren't playing games is take a look at what they're doing in Ukraine right now. If you study Russian military doctrine, and I've been doing that my entire life, artillery is the queen of battle, but artillery is the cornerstone of everything the Russians do. You don't go into an offensive operation until you level the opposition with artillery. What has not been in play in Ukraine today? Russian artillery. Yeah, they fire some preliminary barrages, but then that's it. They shut down. What else has the Russians not used? Electronic warfare. The Russians should have shut down everything. There should be no internet, no communications, no connectivity. That's what you do in combat when you want to overwhelm and defeat your enemy. Russia does not view Ukraine as its enemy. That's what people need to understand here. The Russians have gone in soft as you can possibly go. They fired some demonstration barrages, but then their troops approached the Ukrainian soldiers, giving them every opportunity to surrender. And in the process, the Ukrainians sometimes get the drops on the Russians, and the Russians suffer casualties. Imagine the United States going into Iraq soft. We didn't. If you were on the highway when we came into Iraq, we shot your car. We gunned you down. We blew the hell out of cities. We hit civilian infrastructure during Desert Storm. We shut down power plants. We shut down water purification. We shut down communications. The Russians haven't shut down anything except military targets. They've gone in soft, very soft. They've left all the communications open so that there won't be panic. The Ukrainian civilians right now can make phone calls. Imagine that. They can call their parents. They can call anybody. From an intelligence perspective, this is a nightmare for the Russians. Everybody's talking. They can communicate. They can coordinate, but that's what the Russians want because they don't want panic. They don't want people to view the Russians as the enemy. They are willing to suffer dead Russian soldiers so that they don't alienate the majority of the Ukrainian population. That's what's going on right now. You can turn on the TV here in the United States and it's disgusting. The propaganda that's taking place. CNN might as well be a paid adjunct of the Ukrainian Ministry of Information. The garbage that's put out there about what's going on in Ukraine. And I can't tell you that I know the truth because no one does right now, the fog of war and things of that nature. But what I can tell you is if you know anything about the Russians and how their military operates, you will see that there is a gigantic departure away from doctrine. And the reason that's taking place is the Russians are going in soft because the Ukrainian people are not their enemy. The Ukrainian army is not their enemy. Their enemy are these ultra-nationalists, neo-Nazis who hell is about to be unleashed on them. I mean, we can sit here and say how nice the Russians are to the average Ukrainian citizen. I also know enough about Russia to know that there will be no mercy to these Azov people. And as somebody who's a proponent of human rights, I can't say I'm thrilled about this. I believe in justice. I believe in due process. I believe people should be arrested if charged with crimes and then prosecuted in a court of law where they have full access to, the ability to defend themselves from the charges put forward by the government. There may be some of these, but there'll be show trials, kangaroo courts. But mostly people are going to die screaming in the back alley. There's not going to be mercy for the Azov battalion. These neo-Nazis, these people who put swastikas on their helmets, these people who worship Bandera, these people who give parades to the 12th SS Panzer Division. Their day is over. And most Americans don't understand this. My wife is from the Republic of Georgia. Not just the Republic of Georgia, but anybody who's knowledgeable about Georgia. If I say my wife is born and raised in Sukhumi, you would say, oh my God, isn't that Abkhazia? Yes, that's her homeland. And the Russians, together with the Abkhaz and the Chechens, purged her family from their homeland, drove them out. 250,000 Georgians were refugees. 30,000 were slaughtered by these, Abkhaz insurgents or whatever. She has no love lost for the Russians at all. But she, I got myself all worked up. I forgot where I was going about my wife and this. Oh, the point is, she recognizes that, that the Russians are behaving properly in Ukraine. And this was my point. She's a Soviet. She grew up in the Soviet Union at times. People don't understand the absolute hatred that exists in the Soviet Union, the former Soviet, and in Russia today about Hitler and the Nazis and the fascism and the ultimate expression of patriotism about what the Russians were able to do, the Soviet people were able to do to defeat Hitler and the Nazi forces. And this resonates deeply. Here in the United States, we think it's a joke, apparently, to have a bunch of Ukrainians come together with flags and Nazi symbols and Sieg Heil, and we go, oh, isn't that cute? It's not a big deal. It's a huge deal if you're a Soviet and a Russian. This resonates deeply with the Russians. And so I don't think people understand just how visceral the anti-Nazi aspect of this fight is. We hear all the American politicians, all the pundits on TV laughing it off. Denazification, ha, ha, ha. Oh, no. This is deadly serious. And, death is on a pale white horse and hell follows behind him. That's what's going to happen to the Azov battalion coming up. Anyways, I've spoken too long, too passionate.
Scott,